Chapter 12, International Air Transportation. So here's the outline. We're going to talk about types of service, types of aircraft, some international regulations for air transport, freight tariffs, environmental issues, and just a little bit about security. So types of service. So cargo can travel by air under one of 5 broad types of services. The first is airmail service. This is actually the origin of air freight, of how we got to doing more cargo. So getting mail across the pond, etc. It still accounts for a very small percentage of all shipments. Express air service is, it guarantees a predetermined delivery date called the time-definite delivery. Generally, we think of this as like next day or overnight, right? Examples of places to do this are FedEx, UPS, and DHL. The third type of service, scheduled air freight services, is regular schedule between origins and destinations, so between different airports. Cargo can be carried also on passenger planes, where your checked luggage goes as well. So here, it might be a cargo planes that go back and forth, or it could be, we could even think of this as simply a passenger plane. We have charter air freight service, so there's no schedule. It depends totally on demand, and we often use it to fulfill emergency shipments or seasonal traffic, things like that. And then leased air freight services, contracts between the aircraft owner and the user. That's the lease. It's used by the carriers to reduce capital cost and satisfy short-term demand fluctuations. So if FedEx wants to, instead of purchasing a new plane, right, if they know that they need more capacity during a certain month of the year, they'll lease out from another airline. Types of leases, there's dry lease, wet lease, and ACMI lease. The ACMI lease is the most common nowadays. It's the owner of the aircraft provides the airplane, that's the A, the crew, that's the C, the maintenance, that's the M, and insurance. The leasee has to cover all the other costs, such as fuel and airport fees. Dry lease is the most restrictive. You get an airplane, that's it, all right? And then you're responsible for everything else, crew, all that. Wet lease, owner of the aircraft provides airplane, insurance, maintenance, fuel, and a flight crew. That leaves basically just the airport fees. So the wet lease includes the fuel. The ACMI lease does not. And the dry lease is just the plane. Here are the top cargo airlines, estimated from 2025. That's the most recent stuff I could find. FedEx Express. Then we see UPS is down at number 3, Qatar number 4, Korean, etc., all the way down. And I went ahead and put the key strengths for each one of those. Here is the preliminary figures released April 2026 for the busiest air cargo airports. So Hong Kong International Airport, in terms of cargo tons, was the biggest. And there's a percent change from the year before. Then we got Shanghai. Then Anchorage, Alaska. Right. Then Louisville, Miami, and then Memphis. Interestingly, here, I think the tables in the book put Memphis much higher, but look at that big drop. They dropped 3 spots, right? So Memphis used to be the most important. So remember which big company is located in Memphis, which big one's in Louisville. You can read about that in the book. Here was the expected growth. This is a little bit old. It's from 2019, about the routes of which way it was going to go. So where, within North America itself is the 3rd, 4th one down there, right? But then the other ones are lanes. Types of aircraft. We've got passenger aircrafts. That's the things that you get on all the time or whenever you decide to fly somewhere. Freighters. That's what we're primarily concerned with here. Combi or combination aircrafts, quick change aircrafts, and charter cargo aircraft. So I think I got a picture of a bunch of these. So this is an Airbus A380. This is the largest passenger aircraft. So it's a double-decker hold up to about 800 people, 800 passengers. And you can see the airline there that says. You see the 2 windows. Here's cargo being loaded into the belly of an Airbus 330 passenger aircraft. So that's where your luggage would normally go. But notice that these things are stacked up into these nice little boxes with a little cutout there so they can get right up next to the hull of the belly of the thing. And look, you can even see in the back they're loading it from the second entrance there as well. Here's a Boeing 747. This guy is called the Queen of the Skies. It's the gold standard for long-haul heavy cargo. And this is just Boeing's. I think I took this from Boeing. Yeah, that's Washington Monument. The mountain in Washington out in the background there. This is the most common cargo air freighter out there. Here's the roller deck of an Airbus 330F. Notice that there's a little wheels, and notice that they go in all kinds of different directions. So what that does is once it's up on that platform and you lift it up, you can roll it in and roll stuff around a lot easier rather than trying to need a forklift like you would need for a truck trailer and stuff like that. This is very specialized, making it easier to get freight in and out of the belly. What you sometimes don't think about is if I'm loading all this freight in, it's possible that I could change the weight stabilization of the aircraft and it could tip over. So here's a picture of a guy stabilizing the tail so that as they load stuff, it will not tip over the airplane. Here's a Boeing 747F. You can load freight through its nose. So the nose lifts up and then you can load stuff in that way. Or other aircraft you can also do that with. Here is a converted Boeing 737 passenger plane. So it was a passenger plane. You can see all where they had windows and a door over top of the wing there. But they've converted it now into a cargo plane. And that makes it a little more, you can only go through this side door, so it's going to be a little more difficult to get stuff in. So it's what a normal plane that you would use domestic flights around the United States. Here's a combination aircraft, a combi, with cargo in the front. How do I know the cargo's in the front? Because there are no windows up above the Alaska there. The windows start about the wing and then go back, so there are passengers in the back. So cargo is on the main deck along with the passengers, which are behind it. Here is a look at what that looks like, right, from the inside. So this actually looks like this one could switch out to be even passenger or cargo in this part that's currently set up as cargo. We have quick change aircraft. It carries cargo at night and then switches to the passenger plane during the day. So what they have to do is they have to have these panels there that you see with the seats attached and pick them up, put them in over top of the part where the deck is for the cargo. Charter cargo aircrafts, we hire them to transport goods that cannot be shipped through traditional air freighters. So this is goods that don't fit into a regular air freighter because they're too heavy or too large. Maybe it's goods that need to be delivered to a location not serviced by regular routes. Or perhaps delivered to an airport where the runway is substandard or the cargo handling facilities are poor. So there are several different aircraft that have been designed to service these specific needs. Here's the Anton F. Ruslan, was designed to handle project cargo. So notice that nose sticks up a lot more than the other one we saw where the nose was. And look how big that thing is that they're trying to put in there, right? So it basically takes up the whole part of the inside of the plane. The Antonov 225 Mirror was the heaviest and largest wingspan aircraft to ever fly. You can see it down on the bottom taking off. Look at all those wheels for its landing gear. Right? This was originally built in the 1980s in what is now Ukraine, was part of Russia at the time, or the USSR. Then it was Ukraine's plane, and then when Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, they destroyed it. So this guy is no longer in flying ability, which is kind of sad. Here's a special thing. The Airbus Beluga is used to ship airplane parts from manufacturing plant to the final assembly plant. So it looks like a beluga whale, if you know what those guys look like, right? And notice as its nose pops up, what's coming out? It's another airplane. Right? So it's carrying the fuselage there. International air regulations. So there's the International Air Transport Association. It works with governments and airlines to ensure that goods move around the world as easily as if they were traveling domestically. Doesn't always happen, but that's their goal. And then the International Civil Aviation Organization, agency of the United Nations. It designs, implements standards for international civil aviation practices regarding safety, security, and other operational issues. So the whole principle or premise of international aviation is that every country has complete and exclusive sovereignty over its airspace. That makes sense, right? That's why you don't want, a Russian airplane come flying over the United States. There's no scheduled international air service may operate or into the territory of a country without specific authorization. So you have to get authorization if you're coming from another country, so Canada into United States even. And then we do have more recent developments called the Open Skies Agreement that's relaxed some of those restrictions, where they're allowed to serve any of the other countries' airports. You can look up where those are currently if you want. Freight tariffs. The tariff structure on international air cargo is much simpler than that used by the ocean cargo industry. It's based on the weight and the volume of the cargo. In fact, what they do is they calculate the charge two different ways. They look at the raw weight of it and charge you based on that, right? Come up with a cost. Say it's $1 a pound, right? Or whatever. But then there's also the volume of the shipment called the dim weight or dimensional weight. That's calculated on the dimensions of the shipment. If the dim weight, so they take what the dimensions of it are and then calculate how much that would weigh, and they get a price. They will charge you the higher of the two prices. So the idea here is if what you're shipping, flying, is dense, then you can have it in a smaller shipment, so you're only paying for the weight. If what you're shipping is not that dense and needs more volume, then they're going to charge you based on the dimensions of it, because you're taking up space that they could put other cargo into the space. So you could think of this as, if I'm shipping 500 pounds of nails, that's much different than shipping 500 pounds of pillows. The pillows are going to take up a lot more space than the 500 pounds of nails. So it would be cheaper to ship 500 pounds of nails than it would be 500 pounds of pillows, because the pillows are going to be charged per that dimensional weight, because there are more space that they're taking up. Environmental issues, always a good idea to think about these because of the heavy reliance on fossil fuels. The airlines and aircraft manufacturers have been trying to actively reduce the carbon footprint. Carbon offsets have been big in the past decade. Are they actually effective? Who knows? And then their noise reduction is also the big thing for airlines. So some airports close at night that are close to cities, because if you're living there, you don't want to hear planes flying overhead all the time. So that can affect the cargo, because cargo planes often fly at night. If they are closed, then some of the freight's got to go to secondary airports. And then air cargo security. So the freight industry dominated by the requirements similar to the ones put in place by the TSA, as well as the Customs and Border Protection in the United States. There's the advanced manifest rule. All cargo manifests must be sent to the Customs and Border Protection at least 4 hours before the cargo is to arrive in the U.S. And then there's also certified cargo screening program. This was based off of stuff in the UK, I believe. So all cargo shipped on passenger aircraft must be 100% inspected prior to be loading, and it has to be conducted by certified cargo screening facilities, and there's a whole chain of custody that goes along with it. All right, that was a very quick overview of looking at air cargo for international logistics.